有个中国女孩叫嫦娥，你找一下她。这个是很酷的一件事情。The Wandering Earth 1 and 2就当是中国拍的最好的这个科幻电影。因为我本人也是个科幻迷，所以当然如果说有这样的事情，我也会鼎力支持的。Our 天宫 Space Station is waiting for you. Hello everybody, welcome to Spark. Today we will talk about spaceflight. I am Yang Yuguang. Everybody has a dream to go to outer space. We all know that the space environment is hazardous. It's not very friendly to human beings. To go to the outer space is a really tough task. At the beginning of the space era, we even don't know how to go to outer space without any risk. There are all kinds of very terrible failures during the launch and the in-orbit operation of the spacecrafts. But the human being do all the efforts to achieve the goal of the first satellites, or Sputnik 1, in 1957, and then the first cosmonaut, Yuri Gagarin, in 1961. After Gagarin go to outer space, United States also conducted their Mercury program, and their astronauts also visited outer space. But the rockets of the US is not so powerful like those used by the Soviet Union. So they conducted a suborbital flight, which means that their spacecraft cannot enter the circum-Earth orbit. They tested their spacecraft in the vacuum condition and also test the feasibility of the astronauts in microgravity environment. So this is also very useful. After the first two manned suborbital flight of the United States, they have the powerful enough rocket Atlas, and then they can also go into the orbit like what the Soviet Union have already done. So this is the era called the space race or the moon race. The Soviet Union and the United States try to have the first man walk on the moon. But to achieve this goal, they must master very complicated technologies, such as the crew transportation from the Earth to the outer space and then goes back. And then they had master technology of EVA, or extravehicular activity. This was first achieved by Alexei Leonov, cosmonauts from the Soviet Union in the Voskhod 2 mission in 1965. It is full of dangerous things. For instance, when he goes back and conducted the 19 minutes EVA, he cannot go back because his spacesuit become bigger because of the difference of pressure inside outside. So he's very brave and release some of the gases inside his spacesuit, and then he can go back. During the Gemini program of the United States, they not only master the EVA technology, but also master the rendezvous and the docking technology. So at this moment, the United States is more advanced than the Soviet Union. Then comes to the Apollo program in 1969. On the 20th of July, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon in the Apollo 11 mission. Like astronaut has mentioned, that's one small step for man, a giant leap for humankind. At this moment, the United States has win the space race. After the Apollo program, or after the space race between the United States and the former Soviet Union, comes to the space station era. The former Soviet Union developed the Salyut 1 to Salyut 7 space stations, and also the Mir space station. And the United States developed the Skylab space station. Also, the United States developed the Space Shuttle, which conducted 135 flight missions during 30 years. Today, we already have our Tiangong space station from China and also the International Space Station, or the ISS, in orbit. Every year, at least we have two crew or two manned spaceship to our Tiangong space station, and another two manned spacecraft to the International Space Station. The next step will be considering the chances for the common people. The space tourism is not a new issue. Actually speaking, it has begun at least 20 years before. But at that moment, it's only the business or the game of billionaires. Several billionaires has bought the flight ticket from Russia, and they visited the International Space Station by the Soyuz spacecraft and stay there for maybe 10 days. In these years, they also have another choice to go to the International Space Station by the Dragon spacecraft developed by the SpaceX to go to the orbit or go to the International Space Station at least cost more than $50 million today. So the cost must be reduced for the chances of the common people. For the orbital flight, you must accelerate your spacecraft to about 7.8 kilometers per second. For this velocity, you need a great amount of energy, a great amount of propellants, at least several hundred tons. Even if you can reduce the cost of your spacecraft to zero, but still several hundred tons of propellants is still very, very expensive for the common people. But for the suborbital flight, it's another issue. What is widely recognized by human beings is called Kármán line, which defines the altitude of 100 kilometers at the boundary between the atmosphere and the outer space. If you have the chance to go to the altitude beyond 100 kilometers, you can say you yourself is an astronaut. That's the point. To go to the place higher than 100 kilometers is easier than we go to the orbit, because with this goal, we only need to accept our spacecraft to more than about 1 kilometer per second. So you can see that comparing with the 7.8 kilometer per second is much, much more easier. Of course, it will be also much, much more cheaper. But another fact is that radius of the Earth is more than 6,000 kilometers. So even in our Tiangong space station or in the International Space Station, you can see the curvature of the horizon, but you cannot see the whole Earth as a sphere. So that's a great pity. If you want to enjoy the vision of the whole sphere of the Earth, like what already been done by the Apollo astronaut, we know that there is a very, very famous photo taken by the Apollo 7 astronaut called the Blue Marble, our beautiful Earth. But this is not a chance for the astronauts in the low Earth orbit, only several hundred kilometers high. So if our tourists want to have this vision, they must go higher. When the permanent lunar base of China or other countries become very, very practical or already in operation, it is possible for the tourists to go to the circumlunar orbit or even go to the lunar base and enjoy their days in the moon. You know that China already has its manned lunar program. We hope that we can walk on the moon before 2030. I suggested to my friends in China, when they go to the moon, they can eat mooncake with China's mooncake on the lunar surface. That's very, very interesting and very, very meaningful for the Chinese people. The moon will not be the end of or the terminal of humans' space activities. Sooner or later, I believe within half a century, we can also, not only our astronauts, our pioneers can walk on the Mars, but also we will have our permanent base on the Martian surface. But I don't think in this century we can colonize Mars. From the view of astronomy, today the Sun is called yellow dwarf. It is small, but it will become bigger and bigger, and within several billion years it will become a red giant. It will become so large, and maybe within 5 billion years, it will swallow not only Venus and also even swallow the Earth and Mars. It will become too hot and erase all the water on the Earth. So at that moment, the Earth will not habitable for the human being. In a certain period, the Mars will be more feasible for human being to stay than the Earth, but not today. Still, that is not the terminal of the human being. Maybe many of us have already watched the very famous movie Space Odyssey, or the 2001 Space Odyssey, which is originally the novel of the very famous science fiction novelist Arthur Clarke. This is a very, very famous novel and a very famous movie which describes about the mission to Jupiter. I should say that just within this century, it is possible for a human being to visit the Jupiter system. If we can master the technology of the spaceborne nuclear reactors with more than 1 million watt output, it is possible for Earth to go to Jupiter system within several years and then goes back. Of course, it is not possible for Earth to walk on the Jupiter surface, because you know that the Jupiter is so huge. If you put a human being on its surface, its own weight will be several times higher than its own mass. So we cannot afford that. And of course, another very considerable issue is that the Jupiter has very, very strong or very, very dangerous radiation and also magnetic field. So it's not possible for Earth to walk on its surface, but it's possible for Earth to land or walk on its Galileo moons. Maybe in the next century, it is also for the human being to have a human mission to the icy giants like the Neptune or the Uranus. In the Kuiper belt, there are very interesting celestial bodies such as Pluto and its moon Charon. So in the future, we can also, maybe next century, we can have the human missions to these celestial bodies with the help of the controlled fusion power. So that is already been the boundary of the solar system. Can we go to the next star? Can we go to another star system? Let's talk about it. I believe that most of us like the novel of Mr. Liu Cixin, The Three-Body System. It mentioned about the nearest star to the Earth, the Proxima. It really exists. The Proxima is the nearest star to the Earth. It's more amazing that the Proxima has planets, and more than one planet. Today, the astronomers are studying the technologies to measure whether we can find the trace, find the evidence of life forms in the planets of Proxima. But when we talk about to go to the Proxima, I should say, very, very great pity, it's almost impossible. Today, the farthest spacecraft the human being sent is Voyager 1. It was launched in 1977. For almost half a century's travel, it's only the current distance is only about 20 billion kilometers from the Earth. But how about the Proxima? You know that the distance from the Earth to Proxima is about 4.2 light years away. How many kilometers? It's more than 40 trillion kilometers. For the Voyager 1, with half a century travel, we can only travel 20 billion kilometers. How can we go to 40 trillion kilometers away within our lifetime? There is no chance for the human being to go to even the nearest star, even go to the nearest interstellar system. That is only assumption, a vision, or even a science fiction, not for today. So it's a great pity. Maybe for human beings, we don't have the chance to master the technology to conduct interstellar travel. So that is the end of today's topic. Thank you very much.